almost there. Yes?
For the homework, are you doing it based off like accuracy or just if I have it?
A little bit of both. I mean, mainly I want to see that you made a good faith effort. If you got like one line in and didn't finish it, you'll get less credit than if you did the full 12-step proof. But you'll get a lot of credit if you, the most important thing is the question I asked at the beginning of the homework certification, what percentage of it did you do? And if you tell me you mostly did it despite that you struggled with how to do the chapter 7 ones, I'll believe you. I mean, generally the effect of the homework certification is to raise grades. That's why that's there.
Are you still collecting?
I've opened up a spot on Scholar where I'm collecting it. Just the chapter 7 stuff. I guess my thought is if you did the chapter 7 stuff, you probably did all the previous stuff. The chapter 7 stuff was the hardest. Now, again, the most important thing is I asked you, what percentage did you do throughout the course? And if you tell me you did 80% of everything, even though your chapter 7 stuff is pretty spotty, I'll probably believe you. And so yeah, don't be off put by that, but I want to see where people stand. Generally people who actually respond to the link get between an 80 and a 95.
What about when you said, what did you say, an hour and a half on homework, and you're like, smart?
Yeah, I mean, if you can say, again, if you say I did only 80%, but that was because I would have done more, but I reached the 1 hour limit, then I will take that into account. I mean, again, the whole reason I do the homework grade is to help. This is not to punish you unless you just didn't do anything. But again, since we have to submit it via Scholar, if you don't if you're not excited about turning in your chapter 7 stuff, turn in the most recent stuff that you felt like you did a good job on. So if you don't want to turn in the chapter 7 stuff, because let's be honest, chapter 7 stuff is freaking hard, right? So let's say the last section you were really excited about was like chapter 6.9. Give me a bunch of mid-chapter 6 homeworks, and again, you won't get 100 for it, but you might get a 90. Again, so give me something. Give me some evidence that you did some homework.
So you said it's the helper grade, so are you gonna take our current grade and put common your grading? Okay, you have a 95, I don't want to give you a 80.
That's not usually the way I use it. But when I look at final grades, I always look at each grade individually closely and ask, what's going on with this grade. And so, for example, if the only thing that's really hurting your grade is exam 1, sometimes, who knows, maybe I can be a little more generous on the homework grade. Maybe I can find some reason to give you some extra credit. If what's bringing it down is just the homework. I don't know. Again, the goal is to benefit people who put in some sort of an effort. So tell me and show me that you put in some sort of an effort, and I will try to use that to benefit. Because life's hard enough. The pandemic's hard enough, right? Logic is hard enough. Yes. So here, so in lieu of asking for all of your homework documents, on the homework collection, I basically asked you on Scholar to tell me what percentage of the homework you finished and to give me your chapter 7 stuff, the most recent stuff. But it's been pointed out, chapter 7 stuff is really hard. And maybe you got like 2 steps in, or maybe it's just a mess. If you don't want to hand in your chapter 7 stuff, provide some other, sample of your homework that shows me that you put in a good effort and that, something that you feel better about. Yeah. All right, so let's get going. We have reached the end. Congratulations. You who persevere to the end shall be successful. Our exam in this course, it's a late exam in the week. It is next Wednesday, 1 week from today, 11 a.m. So 1 week from this moment, you shall be returned here with your device, with some scratch paper, and we'll take things from there. You'll have 2.5 hours. In my opinion, you will not need 2.5 hours. Usually about an hour is sufficient for 80–90% of the students. If you want the full 2.5 hours, you're entitled to it. Although frankly, I think anyone who goes more than an hour and a half, is doing more than they really need. Or you probably don't really need more than an hour and a half. It will be online. It will be primarily multiple choice, plus a couple of proof and refutation style problems. Let's go over some sample types of problems that you will see on the final. So if you look at our first example, this is from chapter 2, from Aristotelian syllogistic logic. And the first thing here is translation. Remember, there are only 8 proper patterns for well-formed formulas in Aristotelian syllogistic logic. And when translating, the most important issue to figure out is whether something is a member of a category getting a capital letter, or whether something refers to a specific, which gets on a particular, which only gets a lowercase letter. So Voldemort is the most powerful wizard. We get a lowercase v for Voldemort, because Voldemort, only one scary guy. Is he still a guy? I don't know. Once you no longer have a nose. I don't know what to do with that. But Voldemort is, one specific being. Voldemort is the most powerful wizard. Now, the most common kind of particular is a proper noun, a specific person, place, or thing. But there are certain things, such as superlatives, anything with the word most or the ending est usually is a superlative, and there can be only one. So by definition of the words, most powerful wizard, there can be only one. And since there can be only one, that also gets a lowercase. So things that get lowercase most commonly are proper nouns like Voldemort, superlatives like most powerful, tallest, shortest, ugliest, smallest, roundest. By definition, there can be only one of. Another hint is often the use of the direct article, the. Whereas the indirect article, a or on, usually indicates that something's a category. So the usually implies that there is only one specific one. I mean, even if it's a type of thing, there's many of. So if I ask you, how was the book you were reading? The book you were reading indicates there's only one. And if you think, well, that'd be pretty weird if you're reading multiple books at once. But whereas if we're talking about would you like to read a book, that would be a category getting a uppercase letter. So again, go back and review your translation rules, and go back and review in chapter 2 the 8 well-formed formulae. Remember the 5 words in the well-formed formulae are all, no, some, is, and not.
And there were there were some translation rules in 2.4 specifically that gave you some unusual translation patterns. Remember, there was some special rules for only. Only introduces the second term of an all statement, not the first term. Another weird one is something like no one unless, or nothing unless. The mistaken way is to translate this as a no, but the no and the unless actually kind of cancel each other out and turns into an all. So again, I would review the unusual translation patterns in the 2.4 section. All right, let's talk about some more. So we'll have to do some translating. We'll have to do some translating not just of one statement, but of an entire argument. All anti-disestablishmentarians are conservatives, all A and C. No conservatives are revolutionaries, no C is R. Thus, some anti-disestablishmentarians are not revolutionaries. Some A is not R. All right, so first step is to translate. Then we have to test for validity. When we test a syllogistic argument for validity, we use the star test. So you remember, we'll underline the distributed terms, everything occurring, the first letter after an all or a not, and both letters after a no. We then star the distributed terms in the premises and the undistributed terms in the conclusion. We then ask, is every capital letter starred exactly once? And the answer is no, it is not. The capital A got 2 stars, and that's a problem. Therefore, this argument is invalid. And also, if you just kind of think about it abstractly, anytime you have 2 premises and they're both universal, the conclusion, if it's going to be a valid conclusion, it has to be a universal. All right, let's look at number 3. No P or M. R technically is not one of the acceptable 5 words, but R is, plural is, so if that's something, we'll take it. That's if it doesn't have all, are we to assume all right? Good, yes, that is one of the translation questions, and that is the proper way to translate. The implicit assumption when we offer an English without an all, some, or no modifier, the implicit claim is all. No P or M, some M are not M, therefore some M are not P. No P is M, some S are not M. Therefore, some S is not P. All right, do the star test. Distribute, star the P and the M, star the M after not, star the undistributed S in the conclusion. So this is an invalid argument. There are 2 problems with it. The M receives 2 stars on a capital M. We only want every capital to get 1 star, and there are 2 on the right. So of the 4 multiple choice offers you've got there, the correct answer is A. The problem is that we've got multiple stars on the right. All right, so that's a little bit about syllogistic arguments. We'll also have propositional. This is basically a propositional translation. There will probably also be some propositional arguments that you need to actually test for validity using a truth table or truth assignment test, something like that. Let's see if the other side is better, because that's the other side is not. All right, let's step down here. All right, Harry will graduate only if he is not expelled. All right, so only introduces the second term. So here's something that's kind of confusing. Only usually changes the order because most ifs introduce the left term of a conditional statement. Here, but only if introduces the right term of a conditional statement. But it's introduced in the second half of the sentence, but it still doesn't change which term it introduces. So only if he's not expelled is the second half of the conditional, and then graduate. Harry will be expelled for using magic in front of muggles. Oh. So that's just the plain old B. Thus, Harry will not graduate. And therefore, the A option is correct. And note, this is a valid inference. This is a valid argument. It's using the arrow rule, the modus tollens arrow rule, where we have the opposite of the second half of the conditional, and we infer out the opposite of the left half. All right, then there will be some S rules and I rules. So, what is the S rule for negated triple bar? We've talked about this once or twice. A negated triple bar is, let's see, not P triple bar Q implies P or Q, but not both P and Q. So one of them is true, but not both of them are true. That's what triple bar means. And if you see negated triple bar in a proof, then you should infer out a statement that's an or statement and a statement that is a negated and statement. There will be some space for proofs. We've spent a lot of time talking about proofs. If we have time at the end, we can come back to that specific proof. Did we talk about this one in this class, creating a deductively sound argument? Yes, yes, we did. So again, what I recommend you do with this type of problem is I would just translate it and look for specifically I rules that you can use with multiple, by combining multiple of the premises there. So either the butler or the maid committed the crime, that's B or M. If the maid did it, she didn't have an alibi. If M, then not A. 75% of all crimes are committed by the butler. Anything with a percentage, a probability, you cannot use in a deductively valid proof, so don't try. Just know that you can't use that one. If the butler did it, he didn't have an alibi. If B, then not H. Now, because this is the maid not having the alibi and the butler not having the alibi, I need a different variable for the butler not having an alibi, and I used a he for the H. And the butler had an alibi. H. So a couple inferences you could do. You could prove that the butler didn't do it. You could say if B, then not H. H, therefore not B. And then if you really wanted to go crazy, you could do a second inference. You'd say, well, it says either B or M, therefore M, since it's either the butler or the maid, and we've proven the butler didn't do it, then the maid must have done it. And if you want to do a third inference, you could do not A, because if the maid did it, she didn't have an alibi. But technically, if you just do this, you'll have answered the question correctly. And with this sort of thing, and this is part of what I want you to see, sometimes there's more than one right answer. You know, the issue here is to create a deductively sound argument from premises, assuming that the premises are true. That just means you prove what you can from the premises. So from those four premises, those five premises, you can prove not B, and you can also prove N, and you can also prove not A, depending on how many steps you're willing to do. All right, here we are again, another propositional translation. Oh, and look, there's that nasty only term again. Only if you are clean are you boastful. Only always, always, always introduces the second term. So we know this is a conditional statement, an arrow statement, and the second half is going to be a C. And then the other term is boastful, which is B, if B then C. Now note, only if and just if are not the same thing. Can anyone tell me what the proper translation of just if is? Right, which is triple bar. And if and only if is not the same thing as only if. If and only if is also triple bar. Only if is this, where the only introduces the second term of an arrow statement. All right, let's talk a little bit about some inductive arguments. Fewer than 1% of popular 19th century authors were women. Mary Shelley could not have been a popular author because she was a 19th century woman. This is a weak, bad argument. Why? Well, are the premises false? No, premises aren't false. The premises are true, at least roughly. It commits the fallacy of division. No, remember, fallacy of division is where we claim all the individual parts have the trait held by the whole. It commits the fallacy of incomplete evidence. That's not even something we talked about in this class, so that can't be correct. The conclusion is too strong. Yeah, this is what the problem is. Often you have evidence for something, but the inference people make from that evidence, it goes beyond what's warranted. If only 1% of a group is something, then any random member of the group has a 1% chance of having that 1% trait. So you can't say Mary Shelley couldn't have been a popular author in the 19th century. Why? Well, it means the proper conclusion is that she only has a 1% chance of being a popular author. And a 0% chance and a 1% chance are not the same thing. So when you say couldn't, you've gone beyond, made a conclusion that's too strong. And for those of you who don't know your 19th century literature, Mary Shelley, of course, is the very popular author of Frankenstein. So, the previous argument is best identified as, remember we talked about different kinds of inductive arguments. This is sort of an incompetent statistical syllogism. And it's definitely not a strong argument. It doesn't involve an analogy. And of course, we talked a little bit about, talked a lot in our second session of the course on fallacies. There's no evidence that abolishing the death penalty will not increase the crime rate. So we must conclude that if we abolish the death penalty, the crime rate will increase. Remember, we had a bunch of specific fallacies. And when you say we don't know, therefore we should assume, one way or the other, that is the classic appeal to ignorance. All right, well, that's briefly an introduction to the types of questions that will be on the final exam. Proofs, refutations, syllogisms, probably something with the truth table. Why didn't I include something with the truth table? That's rules are rules. There will be an open text box on the Scholar interface for that. It doesn't just do multiple choice. Those are just the easiest ones. And as a result of that, your grade will not be instantly available. And if by chance it does give you an instant grade, you should not trust it, because that will not include scores on anything that is sort of free. So if 30% is proofs, reputations, things like that are free-handed, you get a 60 in some sort of an instant score. That means that 60 out of the 70 multiple choice points. So don't go like being despondent. The 30 points are great. So I'll remind you that today of I think I know the Scholar settings well enough that I can prevent it from giving you immediate feedback like that. That confuses people. We don't want people confused about their grades in the middle of the pandemic. I think they are due the following Wednesday. Pretty good chance I'll get to them the next day or two after your exam, that Thursday or Friday. Yeah. So you should be able to have a pretty good feel for where you stand in the class based on your final exam and your homework grade. So those two will be plugged in. Yes?
So just like regular scratch paper?
I don't know. I think you just bring regular scratch paper. I mean, because you're going to want to try to sketch out some of the proofs and these sorts of things. Well, if I ask for a proof, it'll say something like this. It'll use these magic words, construct a proof. And if it wants a refutation, it will say, do a refutation. And if you remember the meanings of your vocabulary, proofs always mean that you are showing that the argument is valid and you are showing that the conclusion follows from the premises. Refutations are always of arguments that are invalid, where you are demonstrating the invalidity. Yes?
Will proofs and reputations be labeled as such on how well we have to determine?
Yeah, those will be labeled. Did anyone log into the tutor review last night? How did that go? Oh, good. Yeah, the tutor's very competent. All right, well, I'm here, you're here. I will answer any question from anything in the course. Or maybe I should just offer to answer any question. 42. Sure, why not? All right. I'm not going to write down the given premises. I'm just going to do the inferences. All right, so what do we do first? This is a proof. Well, for anything from the chapter 7 section, we start by assuming the opposite of the conclusion. We are going to prove B, so we are going to assume not B. Which is actually redundant since we're already given not B, but okay. Then we need to use S and I rules. Let's look at one. One is triple bar. So we'll use the S rule for triple bar. If A, then not B. If not B, then A. And then that's from 5 is an assumption. 6 and 7 are from 1, triple bar rule. Then 8 and 9 will be the negated triple bar rule. A equals B. So either A or B is true, but not both A and B are true. And that is from 2, negated triple bar rule. All right, then. If we plug the not B into if not B, then A, I can get an A. 5 and 7. And we've got a contradiction because 3 says not A. So we can close that up. And 11 will be B, which was to be proven because 10 and 3 contradict. And we're done. And there were other things we could have done. That was one of several correct ways to do this one. There were several ways to get that contradiction. What else? As you've been preparing for the exam, what other questions came up? What other problems did you find? Yeah, I've opened the link, and the link says, tell me what percentage of the homework you did. And giving a sample, I requested the homeworks from chapter 7. So for 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. And there was a question at the beginning, well, what if we found chapter 7 really overwhelming, those were like really embarrassing? Then give me another sample. Give me the most recent sample that you're proud of that you think is representative of your general. And I mean, not just one, give me a couple. Yeah, 3 or 4.
I know before you said that like on assignments that have a lot of questions, if you work for like an hour and then you do it, since 7 point, like all of 7 is very long, so it's easy to do that.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, so if for some reason, you reach the hour time limit, and that's the reason why there's not more there, you can say, hey, this is what I got done in an hour. And we're good with that. Yes?
So if we did take that chapter 6 off, and then we turned into the comments and said, do you want full chapter 6, or would you just want like 4 or 5?
Yeah, just 4 or 5 homeworks. I mean, just some samples. I mean, I don't want to look at, I mean, 12 or, I mean, there'd be 12 or 13, because chapter 6 was a really long chapter. Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, normally, I look at everything, and believe it or not, I can actually read through a semester's worth of homework in about a minute and get a pretty good feel for what percentage people did. Because, I've got it right there. I've seen it before. I know what it's supposed to look like. I know when people when there's problems missing, homework's missing. I know when people aren't actually working the problems out. But, because of pandemic, looking through that many documents, electronic documents, actually takes a lot longer. So one more way that physical paper is superior for something like this. So normally I would literally bring a suitcase to our final exam, and you would give me your homework folders, and 40 folders, adds up. And I put it in a small suitcase, and then I look through them physically. I mean, you probably save a small tree by doing it electronically this time. But post-pandemic, I'll return to my previous environmentally not quite as friendly ways. For the sake of the greater good of lunch. Well, how are we doing? We've reached the end. You've worked hard. I mean, especially those of you who've been here consistently. I mean, look, I know this year's just been hard, right? I mean, am I the only one? I mean, maybe it's just me. I'm the freak, and that would be it. But look, this year's been hard, and here's what I've been saying. Everyone's been a little bit off. Does it seem that way? I mean, and that's okay if that includes you. I mean, because, by inference, when I say everyone, it includes all of us, it includes me. I've been a little off, and I haven't liked it. I'm looking forward to next year. I think next year's going to be a lot more normal. I'm hoping that let's take the masks off. I'm pretty sure we're going to be back to not as distance. I've heard that we're going to probably have like regular size classrooms. We're not going to be doing weird stuff like this. Because this was not what I'm saying. But look, y'all work. Those of you who work hard, you know who you are. You work hard. Those of you who work hard but struggle, congratulations for working hard. It's easy to work hard when it comes to you well. When you struggle, it's perhaps a little more virtuous that you keep working hard and don't give up. We've got a week before your exam. If you're struggling with something, send me an email. I'll do my best to give you a light on it. All right? And then you can celebrate this summer and do whatever it is you're looking forward to doing. I know I'm looking forward to this. But yeah. I wish I could take some really smile here, but push hard, get the logic done, and if it's done well, awesome. If it's just done, sometimes you just get something done and you move on. All right, on those passingly profound words, good luck to you. See you next Wednesday. No.
I don't know. I always think that
Oh, no. I'm sorry. That probably means you did a lot of work and didn't have to do. I only asked for a couple because I figured it'd be a pain in the neck for you to take pictures. All right. All right. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.